I did a video a little while ago about Stephen Greer, and there was one incident regarding CE5 and this close encounters of the fifth kind and psychically communicating with aliens.
That's not a plane.
No, no. Oh, no.
That's not a boat.
No, that's a
So let's
ship.
thank them for coming.
Wow, and it's above the sea
Please
level.
turn off your night scope, Charles.
And I suggest in the video, I don't suggest, I say blatantly that he faked this incident. There's these two bright golden orbs out on the coast, and you see them come down. Somebody in the crowd goes, "It's flares," and Stephen Greer just jumps on him. "It's not flares. Don't see that." And there's quite a lot of evidence. I suggest in the video that it was faked.
Yeah, this is a major event.
That it was actually a plane that we know was there because it was tracked on radar, that flew out to that location, turned around and flew back for no reason, and then these two flares with parachutes just randomly appear. The hate I get for that from Greerites is phenomenal. I mean, to the point where I have been threatened more than once. I'm kind of glad I'm in Britain, not in America, because I'm pretty sure one of them probably would have turned up at my house by now. Even though I keep saying to them, I'm not dismissing CE5. CE5 is interesting. I find it really interesting. I'm dismissing this one video because there's quite a lot of evidence that suggests it faked it.
And I mean, definitely Greer is a believer. Greer has seen some shit that you and I have not seen. It's probably freaked him out. But the video you're talking about, it was filmed in Gulf Breeze, Florida.
Yeah.
Which is literally right down the road from the Pensacola Naval Air Station, one of the biggest naval air stations in the Gulf of Mexico. And though, if I'm looking at that, I've seen, ship to sea flares before.
Yeah.
For some airplane just to fly by to drop flares from the military. I mean, they routinely do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes they do it to track breeze, the air movements. Okay, we drop a flare here and it starts dropping down, but
how track its movements.
Exactly. I mean, there's weather flares. I mean, it could have been normal naval operations, and he could just the fervor, tells him otherwise. But I
do suggest that in the video that it might just be a misidentification. But also, I think Greer was expecting it, in that during the video he talks about, do you remember before we came out that I was talking about the gold, that color, and I honestly genuinely believe he was priming the witnesses to expect to see what they saw. And if that's right, he had to have expected it.
Yeah.
He had to have been waiting for it. He then also tells them all to turn off their electronic equipment, like the scope. He keeps having a go at one guy because he's trying to use an infrared scope to see, and he keeps having a go at him, turn it off. Which again is suspicious if he genuinely believed he was seeing what he was believing. But to go back to about him being a believer, I agree with you. I think he is a believer.
Yeah.
And I think you go back to his stuff on the Disclosure Project. It's one of the most important things that we've ever, as a UFO community, has ever had. An event like that has never happened since.
Yesterday, I watched the Cosmic Hoax.
Yes, I haven't seen it yet.
It reminds me of his glory days in the Disclosure Project, which was foundational to everything that we're trying to figure out. And
I think most definitely. It's all about fake alien invasion, isn't it? I believe, which is something you've been talking about a while.
Yeah, we were discussing it on your stream several times. To me, Luis Elizondo sounds like one of these hucksters here in America that was on all the news channels telling us about how Iraq is going to kill Americans. and how Iraq was responsible for 9/11.
Peter, this is the site of the 9/11 terrorist attacks.
Oh, so Saddam Hussein did this?
No.
The Iraqi army?
No.
Some guys from Iraq?
No.
That one lady who visited Iraq that one time?
No, Peter, Iraq had nothing to do with this. It was a bunch of Saudi Arabians, Lebanese, and Egyptians financed by a Saudi Arabian guy living in Afghanistan and sheltered by Pakistanis.
So you're saying we need to invade Iran?
And it was bullshit. We knew it was bullshit.
We were being told that we could be attacked within 40 minutes in the UK. And they had missile systems that could reach us in 40 minutes. And we know they've got weapons of mass destruction because we sold it them.
Right.
So we know they've got these chemical warfare weapons.
Yeah.
Because we gave it them.
That's right.
I mean,
and no one really knows that these chemical weapons, they expire after a year or two. You have to buy more.
Mm-hmm.
God knows we don't want to sell you chemical weapons that you can stockpile for 30 years or 2 regimes.
Yeah.
We want to sell you more and more, not just one.
Yeah, we're brilliant at selling weapons around the world. We're great at it. The Britons and Prussians, we box above our weight selling weapons and death around the world. You know. But yeah, I do feel that's the same. This Luis Alessandro and other people.
Oh yeah.
You know, I think Tom DeLonge has fallen for it as well. And there's this agenda of threat.
Yeah,
it's a threat.
They violate. They always couch it as in terms of threat. They violated our airspace.
Invaded our airspace.
They're using all this as, you know, it's like they don't say, well, they're flying across the Pacific Ocean. No, they're buzzing our ships. They're, you know, attacking our ship. They're swarming, you know, it's just
swarming, yeah, which is
right.
a very
Dude,
word, isn't it?
Greenpeace gets closer, for fuck's sake. I'm just saying, Greenpeace, you know, Zodiac boats get closer to naval vessels than these things have. I'm just saying.
And we sink those as well. So we get a chance.
It's
Rainbow Warrior.
Probably because they're not doing 20,000 miles an hour or whatever it is. Yeah.
Oh, such nonsense.
Yeah.
But yeah,
go ahead.
Agenda has got to be for a reason. That's not. The government don't do anything without thinking about it. I think occasionally, actually, no, that's a lie. Government is completely stupid and does lots of things without thinking about it. But they're not as organized as we'd like to think. But I think when it comes to things like this is an orchestrated plan. This is an idea. And the UAP report, I kept saying this is a trap. We're walking into something here. I don't quite know what it is, but we're walking into something. And then I think we are doing, because what we're walking into is possibly a fake alien invasion. And I think Greer keeps talking about it because he might be right.
Yeah. You know, and I mean, we've all been, you know, I think he even, you know, at least alludes to this in the video that, you know, we've all been here before about 20 some years ago. And because it's the same patterns. You know, it's like this leaked report, this report coming from the military, and all the, you know, and all the language, how, you know, and it's disconcerting. And if you want to, we were discussing earlier, if you want to fake a alien attack, it doesn't have to be, you know, on the shores of Miami. It could be, you know, you sink one boat and one naval vessel in the middle of the Pacific, you know, write off a bunch of sailors and say, oh, the alien did it, and here's all the video, and of course the video is faked, and we fall for it just like we did fall for the beginning of the Korean War.
Yeah, and the Vietnam War.
The Gulf of Tonkin. I mean, that was totally fabricated. Yep. And guess what? We're still paying for that today because there's still 2 Koreas.
Yep. Exactly.
It's not like we haven't done this before. We're well versed in creating international or fake situations, so we have the excuse to go to war with somebody that we think we need to go to war with.
But I generally don't think it's a coincidence that pretty much the best funded science is psychology. It's you don't have a problem getting funding if you want to work into social constructionism or something like this, figuring out why people think the way they do. And then basically social constructionism is openly, how do we manipulate people? That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
And the idea being that how do we get a culture, a society that blends together and that works? That's a nice way of putting it. A more negative way, a cynical way of putting it is how do we control people? That's
Well,
basically what it is.
exactly it. I used to work in advertising for 20 years. Same
Yeah.
principle. The advertising industry will spend about $1 billion a year on psychology and how to sell you shit.
Yeah.
And what's the more effective ad? Well, should that actress be wearing green or yellow? What really, you know, and there is a tremendous amount of work that goes in to selling you as much as we can. Now, most of my stuff was in golf.
Yeah. It's because it works. That's why they spend the money on it. It works really, really well.
Very.
There's a reason why like subliminal advertising was banned really quickly because it works.
Yeah.
Our brains are really, really effective at absorbing information like that. We don't necessarily know it's absorbed it. But governments spend billions on this as well. An example I was used was when smoking in public was banned, was made illegal in this country, in public spaces. There was a big campaign against it because the people initially was like, you're taking away our freedom. And, there's a big campaign. And to be honest, I'm not a smoker. I've never have been. I was more than happy when they banned it. But the way they did it in this country was anybody that then smokes in public was not just considered like, oh, they're smoking in public, they shouldn't. You make assumptions about them. That's a bad person. They're smoking in public. How dare they? What is wrong with them? So all of a sudden, the attitude of something that 20 years ago in this country was completely normal, the attitude now is that if you were to light up in a restaurant, you're a bad person. That was purposefully done. The attitudes of an entire nation was purposefully changed. I mean, and that is an obvious sort of example, and they do it in lots of not so obvious ways all the time. Sometimes they do it with laws, sometimes they do it with campaigns, and sometimes they do it through our education.
For tobacco here in the United States, the first ads you would see, I think they started appearing in the 90s, early 90s. All there were advocacy ads to not smoke, and it always highlighted the health dangers. Well, now for today's young adults, it's not that they talk about the health dangers. They now pitch it in a to their generation, highlighting the generation's concerns. They couch it as corporate profiteering. And then they think, oh, these damn companies want me to get hooked, so I spend money, and they catch it that way because the generational concerns have changed since the 90s. So now it's the same thing they want you to do, the same, don't smoke cigarettes, but the message has changed to keep up with the new generational concerns. Yeah. Same thing.
Well, we have pictures on ours, so they're not allowed to advertise anymore. So all the cigarette things, but they've got pictures of like rotten teeth and black lungs and all this sort of thing. And they was actually saying that it doesn't work very well. They thought this would be brilliant. We'll have a picture of a rotten lung or a diseased liver, and you won't want to do it. And the people are going, they're so bad at judging risk. They're like, that won't happen to me. Because everybody knows, everyone's got an uncle that smoked their whole lives. You know what I mean? And even though, I've got 2 family members that died of lung cancer, everybody's got an uncle that smoked and drank their whole lives and lived to 95 years old. Never bothered them anything. I'm like, I'd actually want to meet these uncles because I don't actually think they exist.
Harvest their DNA, man. There's something going on in there. God, if you can poison your body for a century and still live through it, there's something in that DNA we all need to have. I'm just saying. Hold that fucker down and take his blood.
Yeah, we need to drill into his bone marrow immediately.
Exactly. He's got stem cells that'll save the world.
Yes. He's an alien. He's not from this earth. But I do think though that they do the same though with aliens and this UFO thing. There was the Robertson report in the early 50s towards the end of like the UFO flap, when we had like a decade of like UFOs were everywhere. It's pretty like now, the Washington invasion, Roswell happened. I actually did a series on this. Go back to my playlist and have a look. And subscribe to my channel while you're at it. But I did this 1945 to 55, basically. And I forgot to mention Roswell. So much goes on in this decade. I forgot about Roswell. We barely mentioned it. But the Robertson report always fascinated me because basically these guys got to this panel, got together, and went, right, people are really interested in UFOs. We really need them not to be. We instruct the CIA to basically stop, make sure people aren't interested in UFOs anymore. And that's when the cover-up started. And they've been using the same tactics ever since. I was thinking about this. One of the things I heard about Tyson DeGrassi was that he's a shill, he's a scientist, and he is paid to discredit this thing, the whole UFO topic. And initially, I'm thinking, oh, don't be stupid. Of course he's not. But I'm thinking, oh, they've done it before. And they've done it lots of times. The doctor, whose name is going to go out of my head, that was attached to Blue Book. And his job was to find any other reason for everything that they were seeing. You know, you're not allowed to say aliens, you just find an excuse. You'd find some reason. And so they had a scientist standing there going, yeah, there was swamp gas bounced off the light of Venus, anything. And then they thought that they were actually being kidnapped by aliens, but really they were hallucinating. You know, and he just came up with any reason. They've been doing it ever since. It's just, we just need an excuse. Just anything that's not aliens. And I think they're doing it again with a Tic Tac. You know, and there's other evidence that they're setting us up to knock us down, because they know that's how human psychology works. If we become disappointed a couple of times, we'll think it's silly and we'll stop listening.
And then they can get by with more.
Yeah. I also think they use it against us, though, in that they cover up all the crap they get up to with it. And then the people that are actually like conspiracy theorists, they make us look stupid for a start. But the other thing is they will go, oh, we've just been caught with our trousers down doing something we shouldn't have done. Maybe we'll make it, let's muddy the waters, make it like a mystery, and then we'll just let people's imaginations run riot.
Right.
They'll say it's aliens or something else, and we'll get away with it. And it works because they understand the psychology of humans.